Mary, are you there?
Okay, yeah. Okay, I just said I'm sorry to be asking too many questions, but I wonder
No
if you
problem.
can help me understand the relationship between the job description that has been developed by the leadership committee and what it is that we as a congregation want in a minister. It seems to me that that job description, and I don't know I don't know the how broad or narrow the description is, but it would seem to me that that job description would follow sort of the articulation of what we want rather than precede it. So how, just give me an idea of how that happens.
Christine, are you comfortable answering that question from a broader perspective?
I think so, but Larry can jump in and correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like the job description is for the search committee members and not for the minister. So what I imagine,
Oh, okay.
I haven't talked with Larry about this ahead of time. It's typical for LDCs or boards to say that, to identify good qualities in a search committee member before asking the congregation who makes
Got it.
Okay.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Mary, thank you, Christine, because I'm thinking, oh, that's a really good, oh, wait. And when Christine said, no, we're talking about the search committee and not the.
Did I have that right, Larry? Is that what we're talking about?
You are absolutely correct. I have really nothing further to add except to reinforce it's for the ministerial search committee, and it is items for the church community to be thinking about as you're making decisions as to who you want to be your candidates for ministerial search.
Denise, I don't know if you saw, there's a question, there's actually two questions in the chat. And I see Allie's up there as well. So do you want to go ahead and read and start with the DC question, if you like?
Sure, thank you. And I see Allie and Ann Joseph, so we'll come to you momentarily. And Ricard, we'll get to your question in a moment as well. So Jenny and Brian DC ask, is the LDC already considering the need for age diversity? Will there be a families focus group? Will there be a youth focus group? Will there be a youth representative on the search committee? Larry?
We are absolutely already considering those things. One of the things Margaret is doing right now and has done some already is working out demographics of our church, our congregation. So we are getting additional information on demographical breakdown. We are absolutely concerned that every group and subgroup and every identity within the church is represented in some way or form in the 7 people that are put onto the committee. There may be things that there's just not enough people in a particular group for there to be one person from them, but they can rest assured that the group is going to have their interests at heart as they make their decisions. And so we're trying to find people, we're looking for people who are broad-minded towards the church, passionate about the church's success, and really striving within the democratic process to make sure every perspective and viewpoint is represented and at least considered.
Thank you, Larry.
Thank you.
All right, I'm going to try and alternate back and forth between live questions and chat questions. Not that the chat questions aren't live. Sorry, didn't mean to imply that. But Allie Fisher, you're up.
This will be kind of short because it kind of pertains to what we just talked about, but I think it's easy to go in with intentions of having diversity in the committee, but is there or will there be an objective set of qualifications where it's almost like you can check off like, okay, we have this group, and okay, maybe if there's not someone on the search committee, then we'll do additional focus groups because we realize they're not included. Is there any way to make it kind of an objective process to avoid you're just going in with high hopes and good intentions, but to make sure it becomes realized?
Actually, we've been working on that. If you look at who we have on the group, it's a very diverse group within Leadership Development Committee. And all that is being taken into consideration. We are really working on that now. It's an excellent question. And we're practically turning ourselves into pretzels to make sure that everybody is represented and that there is fair representation for everybody. Hello, Carol.
Hi. So thank you, Larry. I would just like to add that, of course, it is the Ministerial Search Committee's job to make sure all those voices are heard. Our job, LDC's job, is to get a set of folks that we trust to be able to hear those voices and synthesize that into the whole. So that is one of the huge jobs of the MSC, is to make sure they're hearing and representing and the diversity of the entire congregation.
Thanks, Carolyn.
Great.
Very glad you could join us. Rick Carr had a question. Will the MSC be looking only internally, then if appropriate externally, or both internally and externally at the same time? And Rick, I'm assuming that you are asking about the searching for a minister itself. And the answer to your question is only internally. If Reverend Sherman does not get called, then we will consider an external search. There are a couple of reasons for this. One is that Reverend Sherman's been here for a while and has, been discerning about this for a while. And so just for those of you that work in businesses where jobs are posted internally before they start looking on the outside, that sort of thought process works here too. The other piece is that there's a kind of a ministerial courtesy, if you will. It's not an official policy, but ministers are very collegial in supporting each other in their next moves. And so most ministers, and Christine, correct me if I'm wrong, most ministers in other congregations or in search would not want to be involved at the same time that an internal candidate who's already in the congregation is wanting to be considered. Am I right about that, Christine?
Yes, in fact, because of that courtesy and because of the covenant between UU ministers, who are UU Ministers Association, to allow for fair process and consideration and search, it is the policy of the Transitions Office that congregations consider inside candidates before reviewing external candidates, just to make that easier. So it is both, it is a policy born of covenant, basically.
Thank you. Thanks for that. And Rick, if I didn't answer, if I read the question wrong, please let me know. And Joseph.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? I can't see myself. I can only see Denise. Not that that's a bad thing. I want to thank Denise and Christine and Larry and Carol and the rest of the Leadership Development Committee for the discernment process that they've gone through and for the information that you've provided today. It's been really helpful. My question is about the selection of the slate of the ministerial candidate or search committee. And that is, I'm hearing about the nomination form or the application, and I'm hearing that it's great if people who are interested in being on the ministerial search committee have a lot of supporters. And I'm wondering, is this is this going to favor people who are adept at lobbying and adept at signature gathering to the detriment of others, perhaps?
I
Larry,
would say, do you want to go ahead or? That is one thing that is going to be coming is, who is supporting whom. We have a list of requirements that we have to fill that are ensuring broad franchise. What are some of the words I'm looking for here? But ensuring that it is a group that is inclusive of the congregation. One thing that this is being used as the term, but it's old white straight guys. And I'm an old white straight guy, and we're trying to make sure that we do not have an entire list of old white straight guys. So we're trying to make sure through this is where we kind of work as a republic, is making sure that the representatives on the ministerial search committee are representative of the entire congregation. And does that help? Anne?
all right, well, Anne will raise her hand if she doesn't.
Yes, I just put a little thumbs up emoji there. So that means yes, thank you.
Thanks, Anne. All right, Lynn Edwards, please.
Thank you. I assume it's implied, but I haven't heard it in the presentation, and so I'm wondering how the UU principles are concretely integrated into the process. And that's the first part of the question. The second part of the question is, if conflict arises that really impacts some of those principles and challenges them, how will that get resolved?
Larry, you and Carol aren't saying anything. So do you want to answer or you want me to answer?
I'm curious, Lynn, if conflict arises, are you talking about the entire process as we go through it, or just the nomination process?
I'm talking about the integration of the principles throughout every step of the process. And then if at whatever level of that, whatever step of that process arises, the worst of which would be at the very end, of course. But, and I use the principles as being impacted by the conflict, because I'm not talking about, just interpersonal stuff or, not the small stuff, but the big stuff. Is there a process in place for managing that and resolving it?
So, Larry, unless you want to, I don't want to take over your beautiful work here.
Yeah, I just called out old white straight guys, of which I am one. So, the principles are absolutely part of our driving imperative. Where we are most likely to find conflicts arise is in the bylaws. So that has led to lengthy discussions where, to fit the bylaws, we have modified things that may have been in the settlement handbook from UUA, but making sure that everything we do is in compliance with the church's bylaws.
And Larry, I would add to that I think, Lynn, this is an excellent point. And I think that, we formally have developed a covenant for the leadership development team, which includes being mindful and consistent of the principles. I think what you are saying as far as LDC is concerned is being more mindful of that and really pulling that into our process and keeping that in front of us. So thank you for that suggestion. I would assume that the Ministerial Search Committee will develop their own way to do that as we move through it, but I appreciate that suggestion.
And if I can reinforce what Carol just said, covenants. We have a covenant among ourselves with LDC, and we're expecting there to be a covenant that MSC comes up with for itself. So the covenant absolutely encompasses the 7 or 8 principles, depending on both 6 principles and 2 guiding mission statements. Depending on how you look at it, the 7, 8 principles are incorporated in how we move forward.
Thanks, Larry. Thanks, Carol. And we do want to try to wrap up by 1:15. I don't see any hands right this minute, so let me go over to the chat.
Yeah, there's one more question, Denise, from Deanna.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't see a hand. Thank you. Yes, Deanna, please.
No, she's in the chat. The question's in the chat.
Okay. All right. Let me, all right, hold on.
Do you want me to read it? I've got it right in front of me.
I got it. Yeah, go ahead and read it. I got it, but go ahead.
Okay, this is from Deanna Vincelli. Sounds like we won't have a decision before Reverend Jean leaves. What is the plan for the interim between senior ministers?
I am so glad you asked that, my friend. First of all, early in the process, I misstated something that a lot of you may have heard, and that is I referred to Reverend Sherman as an interim minister. Reverend Sherman is not serving as an interim minister. The UUA has very specific definitions about different kinds of ministries. And so while, we sometimes poo-poo wordsmithing, in this case, it's really important to know the difference. We won't have an interim minister at this point. Between senior ministers, we will have Reverend Sherman as the acting senior minister. So we will go from Reverend Jean as the senior minister to Reverend Sherman as the acting senior minister to a call, depending on where we land in the process, a call for Reverend Sherman to become acting senior minister or not. If that call doesn't happen, or if that call fails, whichever, or doesn't go through, whichever happens, then we will consider our next steps that may include an interim minister. That is, however, not on the docket at this moment.
Can I just ask you, because I'm not sure I heard correctly. So are you saying that the call will be for him to be acting senior minister, or the call to be senior minister?
He is acting senior minister effective right now. Reverend Jean is sabbatical, and she has chosen not to return into the same function. When she comes back in March, her main focus will be saying goodbye for about 6 or 8 weeks. So Reverend Sherman will be acting senior minister from now through the time that we schedule the congregational meeting for a call, should there be one.
Okay, that makes sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Todd, I'm assuming Todd Van Gordon, but if it's another Todd, let me know, asks, it seems that there's a big overlap in the operation and mission of the LDC and the MSC. Can you explain what the biggest difference is and why? Actually, there's no overlap, and we talk about job descriptions and we talk about selection and votes and all. The LDC is responsible for putting together a slate for the search committee. Once the congregation elects the search committee on April the 10th, as it stands right now, the LDC has finished its job with regard to the search. So the LDC really doesn't participate at all in the search committee, in the search. They are only responsible for bringing the search committee together, the slate together for the congregation to vote on. So that's the difference. Okay, if Reverend Sherman, from Anne Marie McCartan, if Reverend Sherman will be serving going forward as the acting senior minister, who will be covering his duties as executive minister? Great question. Many of his duties as executive minister included church finances and that sort of thing. And we are in the process, the board meets on Tuesday night, we will be in the process of starting to reconfigure and redirect things. The finance committee has weighed in. Several other folks have weighed in. So we are in the process of getting all of that established. And if we don't have a full report on all duties as assigned after the board meeting, it will come shortly after that. So stay tuned. No film at 11, but we'll have a report.
He's been busy handing things off to me too, so.
I know. And I'm sure that that's going to cost me, but I'll pay whatever it takes. Okay, are there other questions? Bob Rogers is still hearing his sermon. Bob, it's coming from someplace that only you can hear. And so, you know, do with that what you will.
Well, I should respond. I took your advice, went out and came back in, but in the process, I lost my Roman Catholic sermon on preparing for Lent. So here I am.
Excellent. Okay. All right. To my co-hosts out there, any other questions that I haven't attended to?
It looks good. It looks like you got everything in the chat and there are no more hands raised.
Okay. Thank you very much, Diana. And thank you and Margaret both so much. I mean, you are always here for us. And I just, you know, I was schwitzing. For those of you that don't know Yiddish, schwitzing means sweating, but ladies don't say that, or so I was told 50 years ago. I schwitz a little bit less when you and Margaret are nearby. Thank you very much. Once again, if you have additional questions, you can certainly write to the LDC, you can write to the board. If you're in a small group that has questions or concerns, just in general about the whole search process, let us know. The LDC will be, you'll be hearing from them within the week about the actual candidacy for the MSC process. So stay tuned, and we will continue to communicate in First News Weekly, or if there's another way that you would like to be communicated with, let Margaret Rush know, and we will figure out what works best for you. We want to make sure that that everybody's informed. This is one of the hardest, if not the hardest, things that a congregation will do. And for those people that end up on the ministerial search committee, it's the hardest volunteer work that they will do, they will ever do. So I am just eternally, the board, the LDC, we are all eternally grateful for everybody's interest, everybody's thoughts and questions and concerns. This is important to all of us, and we're really working hard to make sure that we hear all the voices and follow the right path. So with that, I will offer closing words, which many of you have heard many times, but is so apropos for this day. It is from Wayne Arneson, and it is called Take Courage, Friends. Take courage, friends. The way is often hard, the path is never clear, and the stakes are very high. Take courage, for deep down there is another truth. You are not alone. Thank you again. Thank you for your very brilliant questions and your participation, and enjoy the rest of your day. Be well, friends. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
You're welcome.
Thank you.